This is the Wells Fargo corruption scandal of 2008. Before 2008, Wells Fargo was known for safe investments and solid business practices. But Wells Fargo was also known for being the masters of practicing cross-selling. Cross-selling, shown here on the left, is the concept of attempting to sell multiple products to consumers. For instance, a consumer with a checking account might be encouraged to take out a mortgage or set up a credit card or online banking account. I want to note that this action of cross-selling, a standard business practice by itself, is not corrupt. However, it pushed forward the idea, above all else, that the clients of Wells Fargo should be seen as customers who should be sold to instead of clients in need of a service. This type of philosophy was pushed forward by John Strumpf, former CEO of Wells Fargo. John Strumpf, elected CEO in 2007, championed the cross-selling practice. Mr. Strumpf would eventually go on to suffer for these practices, but he was not the creator of the cross-selling system. That credit went to Richard Kovovich, shown here. He was the former CEO of both Norwest Corporation and Wells Fargo, and according to two articles, one by the New Yorker and Vanity Fair, Richard created this cross-selling system at Norwest and immediately implemented it when he was hired as CEO for Wells Fargo. Back to Mr. Strumpf and Wells Fargo. During his tenure as CEO, according to a 2017 article by Bloomberg, employees were encouraged to order credit cards for pre-approved customers without their consent, and to use their own contact information when filling out requests to prevent customers from discovering the fraud. Employees also created fraudulent checking and saving accounts, a process that sometimes involved the movement of money out of legitimate accounts. The creation of these additional products was made possible in part through a process known as pinning. And as seen here with the image on the right, by setting the client's PIN to all zeros, bankers were able to control the client's accounts and were able to enroll them in programs such as online banking. The expectation and pressure was so great for employees that they even, according to an LA Times 2017, in order to reach these quotas, employees took it upon themselves to have the enrollment of the homeless in fee-curing financial products. This fraud even affected insurance companies. And according to the same article by the LA Times, it was revealed that employees of the bank also issued unwanted insurance policies. These unwanted policies did not stay hidden forever, and some companies, like Prudential shown here, would take action from this. This action did not come from Prudential itself, however. It came from three employees that became whistleblowers for the fraud that Wells Fargo was committing. These three employees, however, and unfortunately were fired by Prudential for their actions, but Prudential later admitted that they were going to seek for damages against Wells Fargo. The effects of the fraud were wide-reaching and quite damaging, and they affected employees greatly. As mentioned earlier, Wells Fargo employees were severely stressed and desperately alone, and according to a New York Times article from 2017, Wells Fargo employees described intense pressure, with expectation sales as high as 20 products a day. Others described frequent crying, levels of stress that led to vomiting, and severe panic attacks. Employees that were fired for complaining about the fraud or quit in protest were prohibited from making a case to the government. Wells Fargo would fill out paperwork, defamatory U5 shown on the left, claiming that the employees committed fraud themselves and were terminated for such reasons. To this day, it's unknown how many employees lost their jobs, but in 2017, Wells Fargo committed that they were going to hire at least 1,000 employees back into the fold that quit or were fired because of fraudulent activities. It's still unknown how many employees were hired or rehired for this effect. Consequences also affected customers as well. Approximately 85,000 of the accounts open incurred fees totaling $2 million. Customer credit scores were also likely hurt by fake accounts. The bank was able to prevent customers from pursuing legal action because of loopholes in contracts. Because of this, the consequences on Wells Fargo were severe, but they were only financial, non-criminal. This was due to a settlement and fine paid by Wells Fargo to the United States government of $3 billion. This fine, however, does not cover any litigation against any individual employee of the bank. Wells Fargo also lost many clients, including the state of California, the city of Chicago, primary funding rights to the Dakota Pipeline, costing the company millions upon millions of dollars, and their stock and customer base fell because of this. This all came from a 2019 Seattle article. Furthermore, according to a 2018 Bloomberg article, the bank agreed to settle for $142 million with customers who had accounts opened in their names without permission. But what about Mr. Strumpf? After Wells Fargo fell under investigation by Congress in 2016, Mr. Strumpf, now no longer CEO but instead of chairman, resigned. Before his retirement, he surrendered over $41 million in stock options and he also had to surrender $28 million in salaries to Wells Fargo, which was then used for lawsuits. This is all according to a 2017 Bloomberg article. As of 2020, John Strumpf has not gone to jail and is believed that he will not face any criminal charges for his actions as acting CEO of Wells Fargo during fraud activities. Little seems to change for Wells Fargo. Recently, according to a 2019 New York Times article, they are involved in another lawsuit with unwanted car insurance accounts being created. The company may be liable for a $1 billion fine, and it seems that each time a lawsuit or a controversy comes out, Wells Fargo will go and rebrand themselves and do it again. And apparently, Wells Fargo will never learn from this unless jail time is being issued.